Movies with my best friend. Ladies and gentlemen, put on your band tees and listen up. You're joining us with Movies with My Best Friend Phil, a movie podcast for Golden Gods and Golden Gods only. I'm your host, Phil Kessel. I am joined, as always, by two of my very best friends, Will Chodas. Am I saying that right?
You are. Thanks
cool,
for having
we'll get your
me on
interview
the show.
later.
Oh, okay.
I'm also joined by Craig Norlin.
Hello.
Cool. Are you the... Nah, we'll go over it later. I have, in this very room, a special guest. And I would like to hear from this special guest. Because it is a person that I love dearly.
Oh.
Mr. Dan Bator.
Oh, Phil. It's so
How's it
nice
going?
to be on. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm so excited
awesome.
for you to be here.
You know, I'm a longtime sporadic listener. First time caller. But no, you guys are great. This is one for the ages here, guys.
Sure.
It's all happening. I will say that it's all happening.
Yeah,
It's all happening.
It is. It is something that we are certainly doing. That is true. Was that Phil? Was that you being your radio host, DJ impersonation? Is that what?
Yeah, I guess so. It was like because I watched a movie that's entirely about radio personalities, so it kind of just felt right.
It is?
Which movie did we watch now?
Did you guys not watch Pirate Radio?
Pirate Radio.
Oh, wrong Philly Seymour Hoffman
No,
movie.
I just watched Radio, and it was a lot of Cuba Gooding Jr. No, what? Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh no.
this will be interesting.
I would genuinely love that if there were two movies with the same name. What's the
There are plenty.
Oh, there's a ton, but the one that is Snatch, the one with Brad Pitt and Then there's a there's an Amy Schumer movie that I think is called Snatched, like past tense or something. And at one point, Jack and I were talking about one of those movies, and we both thought we were talking about the other one.
Oh no!
And I just would love so much if we saw it's. See, now it can't happen because it would seem like we planned it. But I would love so much if we came to an episode and just had watched the wrong movie. One of us did.
I know you're willing this scenario into existence and hinting that this is something you're going to do because this is a joke you've made a lot.
I don't think so.
I feel
I'm
like
very original. I've never made the same joke
I'm-
twice.
This is new joke territory for me, at least. But I mean, like I said, sporadic listener.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but it sounds like a nightmare. That sounds awful.
Yeah, that would be such a mess of a podcast. And it would be great, if for a very significant amount of the critique of the movie, everybody was still assuming that they watched the same movie.
How long could we get into the discussion before we realized we were watching two different movies?
Yeah.
My guess is almost immediately. But
yeah.
What do I know?
So I mean, you can make a whole game show out of that. That's guess the mole, pretty much. That's that is slipping in commentary from a different critique and review from a different movie while everybody's talking about the same movie, and then okay, which one of these people is the person who didn't actually watch the movie?
Is there a
You're just describing every book report I made in high school. That is the exact scenario.
Much, right?
Is I'm just trying to pretend like I actually read this.
You're just rewriting the back of the book sleeve
Yeah.
in your own words.
So moving on. I asked this of all of our guests when they come on, but Dan, what is your relationship to movies? Would you consider yourself a movie person? Do you like going to the movies? Do you hate movies? Do you wish your
Yeah.
life was a movie? What other things can I say before he talks?
Oh man. Well, my relationship, I put it in the category of it's complicated. For those of us that are familiar with that term.
Phil understands
Classic.
that. Phil, the secret is that Phil actually hates movies, and I don't think he's figured that out yet, but I think Craig and I figured that out a while ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I enjoy movies, I'd say, but I'd say like going out as an event to a movie, unless there's other people got to be there, and I think I fall to the trap of like wanting to talk the whole time during the movie about the movie with other people. So the best time for me to actually watch a movie probably would be just on my own in the basement of my old house while my wisdom teeth are healing.
That's
okay.
So
oddly specific. Jinx, you can't talk for the rest of the podcast.
Nothing changes.
It's gonna happen anyway.
Yeah. No, movies are cool. I mean, but I don't really see them, when they come out anymore because we just don't go to the movies.
Well, you also have a little kid. You have a 1-year-old.
Oh,
She just turned 1. Remember her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She did. Yeah. She took a shortcut, but she's 1.
That's a funny way to put it.
Yeah. 3 months early. No, yeah. That's one complication to my movie relationship.
That's true.
Right there.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
It's makes things difficult.
Yeah, twice for you. And Craig even more so.
Well, yeah. And then me, like, I'm over here.
Phil.
I have a dog that if we're gone too long, she poops on the floor. So, like, I'm right there with you.
That's a whole thing right there.
Yeah, my kids do that too.
Yeah, I mean, I also do it. It's just like I know where to poop on the floor.
That was literally my kid today.
I don't poop on the carpet. You poop on, like, the hardwood floor because you can wipe that easier. No one's going to hear this part, right?
That's a good skill. Yeah.
Not anymore.
Dan, what is your, like, genre? Because, like, I'm generally a sci-fi guy. I feel like Craig is, like, historical dramas because he was there. And then Will likes...
he calls them home movies, but...
Yeah, home movies. And then Will just likes, like, art house movies that have no... they're just all chaos. He loves those.
Nope,
so, like, where would you put yourself in terms of, like...
I know you're doing a bit, but I am definitely insulted.
I know.
Well, we've nailed down Will and Craig's types.
Yes. I've been paying attention.
So my perfect Sunday would probably...
Did you not hear the question? Is Dan's...
Listen,
headphone working?
Listen, if you want to answer your perfect Sunday, I am all about that. I can tell you my perfect Sunday as well. So,
oh man, too bad we're not doing that movie. Would probably be. So it's shifted, right? Like, I gotta love all of like the fantasy era trilogy style movies, aka Lord of the Rings. Like that's my bread and butter, from back in the day, when there's nothing to do, which is never, and I need something to sit and just sink into. It's those types of movies. But it spans the gamut. I like a lot of the action stuff these days. I like historical stuff, period pieces. I don't know if I have a genre, but
totally fair.
There's a definite like phase of like B movies that are just fun to watch with, B bad movies that are just really fun to watch with other people, and that's also a favorite of mine.
That was more or less the beginning of our friendship. Dan and I's was watching bad movies in Dan's parents' basement with Caitlin, and just doing our own version of Mystery Science Theater and we would just seek out the worst looking films we could find just to make fun of them.
Oh my God. Yeah. Blockbuster. we frequented those.
Yeah, we'd go to Blockbuster and
Snake
be like,
versus whatever.
and be like, oh, Mega Shark versus Stupid Octopus. Let's do it. You know?
Yeah.
That one's actually really good. Stupid Octopus versus Mega Shark. That, you know.
Did you guys watch Ginger Dead Man?
Which one?
Ginger Dead Man with Gary Busey.
No.
The name rings a bell, but I don't know. We probably watched it.
We watched a bunch. I remember
we did watch Santa's Slade, or like
Santa's
Santa
Sleigh.
something like that.
Yeah. And then
with
like Buckaroo Banzai. Do you remember that movie?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that was a really. It was one of those ones where like, you know what? We're gonna make the next Back to the Future. Everyone's gonna love how strange and interesting, and like we're gonna mix some genres up and have it be nostalgia-y. And it was just like this weird ass movie. Didn't really work. Anyways. But yeah. So it is that time of the episode where
oh no.
What?
Well, I don't know if I'm ready. Keep going though, I'll figure it out.
Oh, okay. So sometimes like
Don't do it.
I'm gonna find one. I'm gonna find one. So you know that ant that you have that like you maybe like see like when you were younger, you know, the ant that lived like in a different state and like came over for Christmas one year, and like she kind of stayed at the house, and so all of Christmas was like kind of strange.
Yes.
You know? And then like she would like get you and so that year she like got everybody gifts, which was something she'd never done before. And then
crazy year.
Yeah, and then you're like 12 years old and you get the gift and you open it up and it's like this Velcro thing and it's got like a Pokemon on it, and you're thinking like, I guess I could put money in this, but I'm never gonna use this.
Yes.
Can I re-gift this to my little brother? What would you call that again?
Puberty.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. It's time for the segment where we reach deep into our best friend's pants and whip out some recommendations. It's What's in Your Wallet?
God, I hate you.
This is my favorite segment on any TV show or podcast that's ever existed. Specifically because of Craig's face.
All right. So, Craig, I know you were struggling to find one, so I want you to go first.
Sure.
What you got in your wallet?
Well, to spite you, I have two.
Oh, wow.
So take that.
Oh, snap.
The first one is the third season of I Think You Should Leave. Dan, have you watched the show at all?
I haven't. No.
Okay. It is, in my opinion, the funniest show on television right now.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
It definitely into the... what kind of humor would you say this is?
Like absurdist, awkward, intrusive thoughts made into a television show.
Yes, yeah. It's definitely absurd, you know what I mean? It's sketch comedy, but it's like basically the premise of the show is every single skit, every single scene is like there is somebody who is doing something, and at some point, like somebody needs to say, "I think you should leave." You know, it's just somebody being incredibly uncomfortable in an incredible way. But yeah, right? Is that kind of, I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah. So it's on Netflix. If you're not locked out of your friend's Netflix that you've been on for about 6 years now.
Oh, we're the people who have people using our Netflix who have since been kicked out.
So are we. We are the providers of flicks of net.
Wow.
In this extended family.
So. I haven't gave that company a dime.
Remember when you actually got?
Yeah.
When you actually gave them a dime and you got their their envelopes. I remember like getting them at our
Berry Tree
duplex in college.
Yeah, we get them at Berry Tree in the duplex. My parents were paying for it, so even then I wasn't paying for it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Stick it to them.
You've succeeded, Will.
Yeah, I know.
You've won. You've won Netflix. You Willy Wonka'd it.
Thank you. I'm truly the smartest of the millennials.
Too bad you're killing industries.
Yeah.
So I have one more recommendation,
How dare you?
and it is The Abyss. Phil, have you seen this movie?
No, I actually haven't seen it. I need to see it. I know it would freak me out.
You would love this movie.
Yeah, no, I know.
Because it's underwater.
Yep.
And it's one of those where you're like, oh God, no. Please get out of this situation right now.
Yeah, and it's got... Is that the one with Ed Harris?
Yes.
Love Ed Harris.
Yeah, it's... man, it's a little bit... a sprinkle of Armageddon in there. Because you have the crew... It's like Armageddon Aliens.
And Aerosmith is there for some reason.
Yeah, I know, right? Where you have a crew that actually knows what they're doing, and then you have a bunch of Space Marines, but not Space Marines, who are messing everything up. That same kind of feeling. But at the time, very cutting edge special effects. But it's one of the many James Cameron movies that only came out on DVD. And so when we watched it, and I own the DVD, and it's like this small little rectangle inside a much bigger rectangle. So
weird.
It was apparently it's a well-known thing that it has not been available in a good version ever. So hopefully we'll be getting a 4K or something later this year. We can see it in all its 1990s glory.
Why are you saying later this year?
Oh, it was hinted that a lot of James Cameron's movies are going to be coming out with 4K, because there's True Lies has never been on Blu-ray, a couple other ones, but Abyss I'd say is probably one of his lesser known ones, and it definitely doesn't have the same scope as Avatar or Titanic, but I think it deserves to be right up there with some of the other ones. It's just good all around.
My dude, he really likes water, huh?
He does, that's the insane part of it, because Ed Harris drowned, almost died. A bunch of people were
in the making of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy.
He actually he famously punched James Cameron in the face because he almost drowned. Yes. So yeah, there was a lot of underwater shots that were really crazy for the time, and again, the special effects. So it's an interesting movie to watch, just for that historical. This is before Jurassic Park. This is before even Terminator 2. So they did a sequence that looks just like the T-1000, but it's it's a few years before that. So yeah, it's really good.
Nice. It's been on my radar for a while because it kind of sits in right in a genre that I love, of uncomfortable situation, and also space truckers or ocean truckers.
Yep.
Blue collar sci-fi horror for whatever reason really does it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my too long recommendation, so somebody else go.
Nice. We always hate to see it. Will, what do you got going on?
Oh, I'm going to recommend a TV show that's on Hulu called The Great. This is it's a comedy drama, historical. It's not really though. So yeah, it's often titled the Great and Occasionally True Story. It's all about Catherine the Great of Russia in 17 some. And it's all about she marries Peter the Third, or Emperor Peter the Third, and this part's true, is she usurps him and becomes empress, and basically imprisons him, and then he dies later, and that's so this is the story of her, but it's a comedy and it's satirical, and it's pretty good. It's really funny. It's got who is it? Ellie Fanning as Empress Catherine, and then Nicholas Hoult. Yeah, Nicholas Hoult as Emperor Peter.
Oh.
He's great. And
they carry it. I mean, he's
Yeah, it is. I think it's great. I just love the way it's sort of I don't know. We're at a point in time where in American society, we're kind of getting really sick and tired of rich people sort of like dictating how all of our lives are running. This is about, the rich, the oligarchs of Russia back in the day. And it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's funny. It's and it's not even close to being how, like, every time something incredible happens, I'll like look it up and be like, did this really happen? The answer is no, it did not.
Shoot.
So
where is that? Where can we watch? Where is that at?
It's a Hulu show, so it's only.
Hulu.
I think I believe it's only on Hulu, and they're on their third season just came out, and I have yet to finish it. But it is my new show. I'm currently doing an animating project for work, which means I don't need to listen to audio, which means I'm just like binge watching shows in order to like keep myself from walking away from my computer suddenly, which is a big problem for me. I keep finding myself upstairs and going like, wait, what am I doing up here? Aren't I on the clock? Oh, God damn it. So, yeah.
Classic.
Phil, what do you got in that wallet there? What do you got in that Velcro wallet from your ants with a Pokemon on it?
Yeah, it's actually not Pokemon, it's Digimon.
Oh, really?
Digital monsters.
They
Digimon
are
the champions. Thank you. So here's my struggle. I've not really consumed any new media. I did watch most of season 3 of I Think You Should Leave, and I will piggyback on Craig's recommendation. I've just been playing Tears of the Kingdom and working. That's all I do. However, instead of a recommendation, I'm going to show you guys something that Jack made for me.
Oh.
So she has been...
Something visual for our audio
Yeah, something
podcast?
visual for our audio format. This is mostly just for you guys.
Okay.
So she's been crocheting a bunch lately, and she made blankets for her niece and nephew on her side, and it was dope. They were very cool and very impressive. And then I asked her to make me something, and here it is.
What is
Oh my gosh.
It's
an
an alien. Yeah. It's a xenomorph from Alien, yeah. But he's like
so cool.
he's like plushy and goofy,
he's like plushy, like kind of chibi style.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah, exaggerated. That's pretty cool.
That is
very cute. He's
Next
sitting on my
level
desk.
crochet.
Yeah.
You should have gotten them to make you the version from Alien Resurrection.
Oh God, no!
I mean, I'm disappointed that that's not the one you went for.
I should have.
With his
I should
little
have
nose
asked.
nubbin.
Yeah, I should have asked. Do the uncut version.
Well, that's the next one on the next page of the crochet book.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
So this whole thing started because I had found I think we were out at Borders, and I found a crochet book of like cryptids, or I saw it online. I can't remember. And we almost bought it. And now I wish we had, because this thing's so dang cute. I just want like a Bigfoot next to him, or like, oh, you know who I just found out about, Craig? Because you're a cryptid person, kind of.
Yes.
Not you aren't a cryptid. I'm not saying that you are a cryptid. You're a person that likes cryptids.
Yes.
Yucca Man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so Yucca Man is like a desert Bigfoot that apparently just harasses the military. Like the modern like sightings of him, all the stories are just he took a gun out of a military guy's hand and like broke it in half and then disappeared. And I just really like the idea of like a desert Bigfoot that just pranks the military.
Yeah.
And he's like my new favorite guy.
So damn hippies.
Yeah. He's great.
It's a hero we don't deserve.
Exactly. So that's my non-recommendation. So I'm gonna pass the mic over. We've saved the best for last.
Oh boy,
that's how we do it.
Yeah,
my good friend Dan.
Let me check my my gift from my aunt way back when. Yeah. So my recommendation. I have a minor one, and then I have an actual one. Minor one that's actually in my wallet.
Do the rules not matter to you people? What's going on?
Well, I mean, maybe I'll just use Craig's.
None of you have
Craig's
done it right. It's one
this
thing.
This is to spite you.
Phil just found a puppet and stuff.
One is get yourself a stamp card of a place that you frequent.
I really need to start doing that.
Yeah. Zingerman's Bakehouse here, and
Nice.
it definitely pays off because those loaves are spency.
Yeah.
Yep.
And every now and then, maybe a couple times a year when this guy fills up, get yourself a free loaf of bread. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's the best when you know you have it.
Yeah.
And then it's somehow better when you forget that you've gotten the last stamp. And
Right.
you go to pay and you're like, oh my God, this one's free? It's great.
Yeah,
It's fantastic.
it's a good treat. Or like you think you have a few more to go, and then you whip it out, and then you realize that there have a couple in there because you forgot your stamp card one day, and they gave you a second one, and they're like, oh, we'll just consolidate those, and you're like, damn right you will.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever in my life filled out a full punch card before. I'm always like, this is going to be my thing. I'm going to be the guy who goes to this place and gets this punch card. This is going to be me. And then I'm like, I do it twice, and I'm like,
Never go to that place again.
never go back ever.
Well, pick one place and get your card and put it in front of your Costco card, and you'll never forget that it's there. So that's my minor recommendation, which I guess now is like a major recommendation. So
Yeah,
there
now you got
go.
two major ones. It's
Two
great.
majors. Second major one is some media that I did consume in the recent past. With Stacy. Stacy and I watched this show on Netflix. We were just like digging into the bottom of Netflix, bottom of the barrel. And I'm not sure this is at the bottom of the barrel, but it's something that's kind of out of the genre that I would normally see. It's just like a sports sort of film documentary, and it's called Untold.
Well, there are a bunch of those.
It's called Untold, The Girlfriend Who Didn't Exist.
I watched that one.
You did?
Yeah, I watched. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's about this football player named Manti Te'o. And he I'd heard about it a while back. I never really followed it because I don't follow sports. And I think actually Ryan Hamlin might have told me about it at one point, and I'm like, no way. So basically he's like a really cool football player, really great guy. He's doing great things. He's going into like the NFL pretty much. But at a certain point, like he meets this like girl online that he falls in love with, like girlfriend sort of thing. And then like at a certain point, he finds out like she passed away. And then he like does a bunch of sports like interviews and stuff, pregame interviews, and he says, this one's for, so and so. She's in my heart and my mind because she passed away last week, and the whole world is up in arms like, oh, this guy, like our hearts go out to him. He's a really good dude, and he just lost his girlfriend. And then it turns out that somebody figures out that she doesn't actually exist.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
then the media just turns on him.
Yeah.
And from that point on, it gets pretty crazy in this documentary. And you'll have to watch it to see what actually goes down. It's wild.
Yeah, it's a good. That one's a really good one. So the Untold documentary is a series. I think there's like 9 or 10 of them.
Yeah.
And they're all sports related, I believe. Like they're usually the one that I really liked was Untold Crimes and Penalties, which is about the Danbury Trashers, which is a defunct United Hockey League team. And like it's like about the mob and stuff, and it's basically the whole thing is this guy buys a hockey team, and he for his like 17-year-old son, and puts his 17-year-old son in charge of it. And
holy cow!
Yeah, so that's a good one. But yeah,
I didn't know it was a series. I guess I think So we'll have to watch some other. We've only seen the Manti Te'o one.
Yeah,
but,
that was the first one I think I saw, and then it just kept going like, you watch this, you'd like this. I'm like, well, of course I would.
If you say so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. That sounds really good.
These are some good recommendations.
Yeah.
We're tastemakers here.
Yeah. Speaking of stadiums, did we speak of stadiums? Kind of.
We sure did.
You know what else goes to stadiums? Rock and roll groups.
God.
Hot dogs.
Bill.
All right. Well, the wind is out of my sails. We watched a movie. All right. We watched Almost Famous. Almost Famous is a 2000 American comedy drama film written and directed by Cameron Crowe. It stars Patrick Fugit? Patrick Fugit, Billy Crudup,
Fugit sound.
Frances McDormand, Kate Hudson, Jason Lee, Anna Paquin, Faruqa Balt, Noah Taylor, and Philip Seymour Hoffman. It's 122 minutes long, $60 million budget, $47.4 million at the box office, so it is a flopperoonie. How do you guys think? How do you think this did on Rotten Tomatoes? Anyone have a guess?
I have to abstain.
What's that?
I think
I have to abstain. I accidentally saw it.
Oh, I did not see the score on Rotten Tomato, but I'm going to say it did pretty medium to medium well.
What number would you give that? Out of 100?
It's out of 10, right?
No, it's out of 100, yeah.
Okay, I'll multiply my score by 10. I'd say I'd give it a 87.
Phil, what do you got?
Ooh.
Is that's pretty high, right?
That was like right where I was gonna go.
Okay.
I kind of want to Price Is Right you.
No, don't do that to him.
Okay,
That's
fine.
only
I won't. I'm gonna say 83.
Dan has it. It's 89.
Dang it, Craig! I could have won.
Like that number.
I know you could have.
Yeah.
That's why I did it.
And the score, audience score is 92. So yeah, audience likes it a little bit more, but they didn't go see it in the theaters.
Nope.
No, they
I'll
didn't.
talk about that one later.
Well, I mean, like, yeah,
You better not.
That's commercialism, and we don't want to.
Yeah.
You know,
They would have gone to see
production
it
companies here.
if it didn't release in December.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They'd see it in some month and some day in June.
What the hell are we talking about? It doesn't matter.
I don't know.
Okay, so I picked this movie. Well, I picked this movie because I wanted to bring Dan on the podcast, and him and I were talking, and I threw out Almost Famous as an option, as it was a movie we watched when we were in high school, I'm assuming. I mean, we would have been 10 when this came out, but we watched it later on in like 2005 or so, I'm assuming.
If we watched it when it came out, we'd be in like 4th grade.
Yeah, right. So Dan, do you want to go first on how you feel about this movie, or would you want to wait until you hear what we have to say?
No, I see Phil's got his mouth open here.
So I was just gonna So I know you two have seen it. Have you two seen it like multiple times? Is this like a rewatch? You're not? Is this like a rewatch one?
I've seen this movie multiple times.
Yeah.
Okay. This one's actually like, this is my bias here, right? Like this one's coming in. It's one of my favorite movies. I'll say that much.
Yeah. It wasn't
Of
one of
all
mine.
time.
I don't think I owned it. I just watched it at Dan's house. Said this movie's awesome, and then probably that was the last time I saw it until 2 days ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan, were you going to go
Sure.
into? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, this movie, like, it's obviously watched it back in high school. Very impressionable era in my life too. A lot of changes happening. This is like one of those coming of age movies, I'd say too, in a way. It's at a time when we were all sort of getting into good music, and this is a movie that's all about good music. And I just honestly fell in love when I watched this movie. And it made me want to go listen to vinyl, and go see live shows. And I thought this movie was pretty fun to watch. It's pretty funny. I'd watched it a lot when I was kind of in high school and a little bit around that time, and really hadn't watched it too much since then, since recently when Will and I watched it. And it holds up in my book and being a pretty fun movie to watch. Maybe even more so now that I'm older.
Yeah. I had said that when this was usually when you watch a movie you watch when you're in high school, my reaction is normally like, wow, this is way worse than I thought it was going to be. But for whatever reason with this movie, I feel I know where you stand because you've been texting my wife.
I texted her like twice yesterday.
Yeah, I know, but she told me, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
I figured.
Anyways, so anyways, this was a movie where I went, "Oh, this was better than I remember it." I remember it being like fine, but this is. I thought it was a lot. I was surprised at how much I thought it was funny. So before we go too much further, how about Craig? We get a reaction from you on how you felt for this movie. Weird. I didn't watch it with you. That almost never happens.
I know. I was extremely sick this whole weekend. So
because of the movie?
Yes. No, I'm just kidding. I did see it with my sister, who is the one who introduced me to the movie. And so that was kind of a last minute thing. So thanks, Anne, for watching it with me.
Woo, thanks, Anne.
We had a lot of fun. Just kind of picking the movie apart in different ways. So we hadn't watched it together in many years, so it was fun having that experience again. I have seen this probably about 3 times, maybe 4, if I'm not counting bits and pieces. I kind of love this movie, if I'm being honest. The music is great. It's kind of just a feel-good movie, if that makes any sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether it's them in the bus singing Tiny Dancer or I don't know. It's hard to describe. And I'm sure Phil is...
I can see Phil winding up right now.
Phil's ready.
I knew, Phil, you weren't going to like this. I just knew it. But before we put a bunch of words in your mouth, why don't we hear the words that are in your mouth? Did that make sense? Oh, no, never mind.
Oh, the words, not the food. I'm sorry.
Before we put a bunch of food in your mouth.
Yes.
I already had dinner, though, but thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So what's next?
How did you feel about this movie?
Okay. I'm gonna try and if I had seen this movie when I was in high school, this would have been far and away one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite movies. I would have absolutely loved this movie. Not having any nostalgia for it, I think it's a very strange movie to watch in 2023. Because I feel like I'm supposed to be nostalgic for somebody being nostalgic for a time I didn't exist in. But I didn't watch that in a time where I like when it came out. So I feel like I'm 2 degrees of nostalgia away. So the movie did not hit at all.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, the movie just didn't hit at all for me. I think it also shows its 2000s-ness.
Well, I was just about to say, this movie is interesting because it's aged twice. So it takes place in 1973, but it was made in the 2000, so the 90s. It was made in the 90s, came out in 2000. So it is there's one point when they're on the plane and they're all confessing stuff, and the one guy just blurts out, "I'm gay." And
which is so 90s.
That is so
90s, 2000.
Yeah, and then there's just awkward silence afterwards, and and it is kind of oh yeah, in that era that would have been really awkward, but it's played up that's something I was supposed to be laughing at, and because of how awkward it is, and that was maybe, I think, the thing that was the most sour for me, one of the most sour moments.
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, the other sour moment was sort of the making the move on the girl while she's ODing.
Call it as it is. That's assault. But so negative thoughts aside, what I will say is I feel like this was well made. I feel like it was edited well. It you feel like you're on a roller coaster, and it's it is a fun. If I liked the movie more, this is such a weird thing to say. If I liked the movie more, it was a very fun movie to watch. Like I see all the pieces being great in it. Like the editing is great. The movie feels like a fun roller coaster. I think some of the performances are fantastic.
Yeah.
I think Kate Hudson is great. I think Billy Crudup is really good in this. Oh my God, why am I blanking on her name?
Frances
She's married.
McDormand.
Yeah, Frances McDormand is great in this.
Hey, you know
there are so many great performances in this.
Yeah, and Zooey Deschanel's in this movie, and that wasn't one of the people I said starring. That wasn't on the Wikipedia page. Where I get, I mean, the thing that I sourced from a lot of different reputable places, not something that I just rip immediately off of Wikipedia for my intros. So
there's
I think
a lot of good characters in this.
Oh, well, that's one of the things that we noticed right away is there's so many people who like later on are funny in something else. Like Cam from Modern Family is in it and has a very memorable cameo. There's even like
Rainn Wilson.
Yeah, and Rainn Wilson has like no lines. He has like 2 lines in the whole movie. Right? Yeah. But he's just like standing in the back reading a book that just says art on the front, you know, and it just sticks out.
It's great. There are no small parts in this movie.
Yeah, no. So it actually, in that sense, it reminds me a bit of Moonstruck, because Moonstruck was like everyone was like a character, and in this, everyone feels like a character. So I think we'd probably benefit to go over the plot a little bit. If you hadn't seen it, it's basically the story of a 15-year-old pretending to be older than he is, and he somehow like kind of accidentally gets a job working for Rolling Stone, the magazine, to follow around this band called Stillwater, and it's set in the 1970s, and so he basically is this 15-year-old kid on tour trying to get an interview so he can write his article. So there's a lot of elements going on because there's also a group of girls who he basically is like told to like stay with, which are the groupies, but they say no, we're the Band-Aids. And so
the actual term is adhesive bandages.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
Band-Aid is a brand.
It is a brand. We don't want to. Yeah, we don't want to escalator them. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Escalator was a brand who lost their.
Oh.
Yeah. It's moving staircase is what it actually is. Escalator doesn't matter.
Touche.
Yeah. So yeah, and there's also like he's got his mom. I thought his mom was very interesting. She's allowing him to go, and the reason why is in the very beginning of the movie when he's a little younger, his sister, played by Zooey Deschanel, basically leaves, and it's all because their mom is way too strict. So it's interesting that her character has like all of her character growth front loaded, because she starts off kind of seeming like she's going to be the villain of the movie, but she's sort of she's allowing the main character, his name is William, to go and do this because she doesn't want to repeat the same.
Oh my
mistakes.
God, your name is William.
Oh my God, it is. Wait, is this?
I just put that together.
Yeah, wow. Is this just my life? Is this movie something that happened to me?
This is just the story of Will.
Yeah. Did I lose my virginity to 3 women at the same time?
You did.
Sounds like a nightmare, if I'm being honest.
That was... No, I didn't like that too.
Of course you didn't, Phil.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's all the... So yeah, it's just... And then basically, you know, he has to write his story, and he's trying to get a story. And I really related to the character William almost exclusively because we had the same name, and that's it. And
that makes sense. That's how I work.
I also really related to the Russell character because he's played by someone named Billy Crudup. Billy is a nickname for William. So obviously all of these characters were just me put into a movie, and I am the main character of the world, and everyone is here just to serve me. Wait, what are we talking about?
Is that why we're supposed to be calling you a golden god now?
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Now,
that's why I demanded that.
We're all golden gods on this podcast.
Yes.
I already said it.
No, I think my pushback, Phil, is I feel like this movie, you're right, it is like nostalgia for an era that we didn't live through. So it feels like this second degree of nostalgia. But I sort of feel like I felt nostalgia for movies that are set in times that I could have never been alive during.
Yeah.
And I feel like there is like sort of there's like a danger with nostalgia. Like there's like sort of like it can be very toxic if you're like, this is we always do it this way and this is always why. And I kind of feel you on that a little bit, but like I think this is because it's about Cameron Crowe. It's not like something that really happened to him, but he was a reporter for Rolling Stone at the age of like 15. Like that really was true for him.
This is almost based on a true story in a way.
It's very much a like memoir or like, so it's like, and the whole movie is about adolescence and it's about being young. Like even the rock stars like Russell and those guys, they're basically chasing perpetual youth. They're not growing up. They're like, the whole thing is William, the main character. Everyone's calling him the youngest, and like Opie, and like he's not responsible, and also like maybe he doesn't want to party and all these things, but he yes ands everybody all the time. Like he goes along with everything. So I don't know, and it's just because he's younger, they assume that he's like, I don't know. So it's all about adolescence, and we have these like rock stars who are supposed to be adults in the situations acting like children. I don't know.
Yeah.
That really gets me. That I don't know. That I really like felt. I felt like it reminded me so much of just being like a young kid. Everyone assuming when you're young that means that you're like naive or that you're not going to you're like you're not going to do drugs or do anything crazy. You know what I mean? Like when you're like the freshman doesn't do anything crazy. He's innocent, assumed innocence almost. And so I just like really related to that when in reality, he was kind of the most, he wasn't really, he like when, like he didn't have like some sort of like moral compass that came in at any point that told him to like, drugs are bad or any of these things. I mean, he didn't necessarily partake in a lot of the drugs, but I don't know. I thought it was a cool character in that way.
Well, he's definitely more responsible. I mean, he keeps...
Because he's got a job.
He's got a job. He feels kind of weighed down by that, but he has to keep certain people from killing themselves by jumping off a roof.
Yeah.
He's got to keep the band together.
Well, yes. And like that's the other thing is Zooey Deschanel's character, his older sister, says you stole his adolescence, because we find out at the very beginning of the movie that William thinks he's 12 years old, but he's actually 11 years old, and that he knows he was held back twice. So he's like 3 years. So he's graduating high school at 15. And so Zooey Deschanel's character is like he had an adolescence stolen from him, because he's now taking high school classes when he's 11 years old, And so there's a lot of him like chasing that adolescence that he lost as well in these, I don't know. I think there's a lot going on in this movie. And
there's a lot of like themes that I think are well kind of like maintained throughout this movie. And I think like what in the scene where Russell is kind of like going like after the band has a fight and he goes off and is seeking like what's real. I think that's sort of a theme of the movie too, is like what is real? Like what's the real story? What's what is real life like actually, and there's different references like in the real world.
Yeah, Penny Lane. Penny Lane keeps saying, who is Kate Hudson's character, keeps saying things like, in the real world, we'll go to Morocco together, And then she starts confusing the real world with when she, thinks that Russell is actually signaling to her that they want to be together or whatever, or that he wants to be with her, but it's not true because he's got a wife or a girlfriend or whatever she was.
And there's this illusion that there is this more real thing that everybody is chasing, like the band seeking the new manager and getting the big headlining tours, like that's going to be the real thing, or like the idea, like the front man, like dynamics and all those kind of things. Like this is the realness that they're pursuing, or with William too, going after the Rolling Stone kind of cover story, and even the magazine themselves, they're looking for, what is the real story of the band. Story. And so like, yeah. So I think that theme is pretty well maintained throughout the movie, and it's kind of tied together in a multi, and different, scenes.
And the thing that's interesting about that is like, they're it sort of like plays in with this idea of nostalgia, like, oh, we're just waiting for the real thing to happen. But then when you're living in the future, you look back on that and go, oh, well, now that was the real thing as well. Like, sort of like, that feels like a weird commentary of Cameron Crowe, where it's like, that was real. We kept expecting this new thing, but that was that. I don't know. I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. I was expecting it because I remember this movie being the movie that like kind of too many people really liked, and it was like, this is why Caitlin didn't like it, was because it was like a lot of like, guys who thought that they like had tapped into some sort of like secret movie, because I think probably because this movie flopped, so not many people knew about it.
Yeah.
So then when it came out on DVD and people started passing it around, people were like, wow, this movie's great, and why haven't I heard of it? So there were a lot of like people who weren't that interesting trying to make themselves seem interesting by saying that a movie like this was like their favorite movie. And
it's like saying Fight Club is your favorite movie.
Right, yeah.
Fight Club. Confession, I've never seen Fight Club.
Yeah, well, it's a really good movie, and it's one of those movies where you're like, oh, a bunch of douchebags like it, and then you watch it, and you're like, God damn, those douchebags were right, because it's a good movie.
It's okay.
So
don't listen to Phil's recommendations on anything.
So,
what do you mean it's okay? Shut up.
Wait, so I want to just be clear here. So, Phil, you just recently saw the movie for the first time?
Yeah. I had never seen it before. I really, really think that if I had seen it in high school, I would have absolutely loved it. And again, like I can see all these parts. Like the theming is really well done throughout the movie. The movie is well made. He's got interesting characters. It just, to me, felt, I just wasn't into it. I think it had too many parts that like really turned me off.
What are some of those parts then? Why don't we get into that?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know how much you guys know about actual rock stars of that time. I know you guys know enough to know that they're some of the worst people.
Yes.
That sucks. So like it's hard for me to get into the mindset of liking that music anymore. It's hard for me to get into the mindset of being into like rock and roll dudes, because mostly what they did was statutory rape. That's mostly what they did when they weren't on stage. So like it's really hard when I get presented with this movie and it opens with Kate Hudson's character being very coy, I don't know if coy is the right word, about her age. That's weird. The script says that she's like 17. The Band-Aids range from like 16, maybe 15 to like 20. I don't like that. I don't like the kissing an unconscious woman thing at the end. I don't like the deflowering William. That was a super gross scene. So like there's just a lot of those things that make it, to me, feel like what a young 15-year-old Phil would think is the coolest thing ever. And young 15-year-old Phil was dumb as a bag of rocks. And like teenagers aren't great people. So relating to William makes me feel bad.
It's interesting. And those are all, I think, yeah, I mean, looking at those scenes, it's definitely cringe-worthy.
Yeah.
We're talking about the ages. But I think, and I don't want this to end up being, let's push back on Phil's criticism here.
No, this is how I get Will.
I think that this is actually what the movie was. I think it was intentionally
I think the movie's
cringe,
agreeing
too.
with you, Phil.
I think it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think
because
the movie
it's not about the rock stars.
No.
Like it's like it's showing this, it's lifting the veil in a way, and maybe it didn't lift it enough, but like in revealing like how the glamorous lifestyle of rock stars might seem glamorous, but it all is really f***ed up. And doesn't go into depth, and maybe that's to your credit there. But I think like I came away with it, and maybe it was when I was in high school too, less infatuated with the rock stars and more infatuated with just the music.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel you on that era being. I mean, you kind of did, and I asked you to bring this up because I said tell us what you really don't like. But now I'm sort of in a position where I have to like defend statutory rape or something. But
no. I can see
I
where
put myself in this position. I'm aware.
No, I put you in this position. I do this all the time. I can see where this movie kind of tried to say that this, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of tried to say that this lifestyle is not good. I just felt like it was kind of trying to have its cake and eat it too. Where like
it's definitely
it only pulled the veil up just enough to like cheekily say, "Oh yeah, look at what's going on here." But then the only people in this movie who are punished are William, who doesn't get his article.
But he does.
But then he does. And Russell, who breaks up the band. Oh, wait, he doesn't. So it's Kate Hudson's character, who almost dies.
Yeah, but then she does go to Morocco at the end. She does finally do the thing that she wants to do.
Yes, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
so kudos,
person
that's
that
a good
punished
point.
Was the dude who lost his gate.
Mark Maron.
Mark Maron.
Yeah.
Mark Maron.
He lost his gate and he's like, you know what? I quit. I'm going to get into podcasting.
No, I
don't.
I'm not saying like these things like. I'm not saying like by liking this movie or finding ways to relate to this movie is me like suddenly like endorsing like, well, but everybody back then was statutory raping. You know?
I could totally relate to William. William was extremely relatable. I feel like I was William growing up. This is a super relatable coming of age story.
Right.
This is a very tough one for me to like try and be the villain on. It isn't like what's that black and white movie that Craig made us watch that I hated so much?
Chinatown?
Well, there was that one too. No, the
Cinema Paradiso?
No, well, no, I didn't like that one either. No, it was after Cinema Paradiso.
Jesus.
They were in like a border town, and it had a white guy playing a Latino guy.
Oh,
yeah.
It isn't like that movie where I just like hated that movie.
Touch of Evil, yeah.
This movie was like this movie was conflicting. There was a lot of parts I really, really like. I like the deflowering scene came up and I almost turned the movie off. I was like, there's a lot of this movie that really upset me, but there's a lot of this movie I did relate to, and it has made me think about a lot of things. So I feel like there's definitely a lot of value in this movie, whether it's like made it to 2023 unscathed or not. Like I think this is a good, well-made movie. I just have a lot of problems with it, and that's on me.
Do you think that some of these things could have actually happened to him, and that's why they're in there?
Oh yeah, 100%.
However much cringe they are to us now, there's probably a good chance that these things happen. It's
not the things, because I guarantee all of these things happened at some point, whether it was to him or someone else following a band. Like it's not the things that happened; it's how I didn't feel like the movie did enough to say like, "Hey, this is bad." And I think that's on me.
Well, how much responsibility does the movie have to hitting you over the head saying this is a bad thing that you're seeing here without it talking down to its audience?
Well, that's a good point. Yeah. I genuinely don't know the answer to that. I don't know if there is an answer to that. It's just the way I felt during the movie. Well,
let me sidestep.
Please do.
This is a fun movie to kind of companion with That Thing You Do. because you get a little bit of the same kind of friction, except that thing you do is a meteoric rise that immediately plummets down
Yeah.
and burns. But you kind of see the same thing where you have someone who's obviously the talent and other people are chafing underneath that. And it looks like the band's going to completely fold at one point. And this one just happens to not be there quite yet. But you can tell that Stillwater is not going to be one of those bands that stands the test of time. At least not with all their original
they're from
members.
Troy, Michigan. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, from
did you
Troy,
notice
Michigan.
how many Michigan-centric things? There was Detroit sucks.
Yeah.
They're from Troy, Michigan. And then Jimmy Fallon says, I once hit a man in Dearborn, Michigan.
Yeah.
Just kept that going. This movie had it out for Michigan.
Yeah, it really
picked up on
did.
it. There's a lot of, there's even
Oh yeah.
Detroit
and the
barbecue boxes.
Sorry, the other one was he said he's under the name Harry Houdini, and I went, Houdini died in Detroit.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Anywho,
Something
sorry, Dan,
about-
what were you saying?
No, I was just saying that there's actually I was trying to see closely there's all these checkered boxes that were in Lester Bangs' house. And I'm like, what I'm thinking to myself the whole time. And so I looked it up after the fact, and it turns out they're this Detroit barbecue place, Checker Barbecue, which is was a favorite of his or something.
Well, I didn't know he
historically.
was a real person until after I watched it this time. I'm like, wait a minute.
I didn't know he was a real person until right now.
Yeah.
And Philip Seymour Hoffman looks a lot like him.
Yeah, he was nearly unrecognizable.
So when it was kind of funny, he just keeps calling Philip Seymour Hoffman's. And at one point I was just sort of like, it's pretty cool that William is able to call the screenwriter of this movie and ask him what's going on and what's happening next and what he should do.
Yeah.
He did feel like a magical character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It also there is something very 70s about a child calling a grown man and that grown man going, yeah, you know what? I'm going to give you a bunch of advice. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because that's the world my dad grew up in and thought that was going to be the world that I would grow up in. So when I was in high school, I'd be like, I think I want to be a film director. And he's like, have you ever thought of sending them a letter? And I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
Sending
What's
who
a
a
letter?
letter?
Well, no, but also what the? You
Yeah.
think that would work? You think he's going to get that? No way. Whereas in this, if you see somebody, you just walk up to them. Anyways, because the internet didn't exist and people didn't ruin celebrities as much as they have nowadays.
Well, it's the same thing nowadays when you ask, people to give a call, make a phone call.
Yeah, right.
And then people are like, maybe I should just text.
Yeah, right.
That's this guy. That's this guy right
There you
here.
go.
I hate phone calls.
Hate calling people.
My dad.
So-
My dad is the guy who I'll text him and he'll call me, and I refuse to pick up the phone when he does that. You don't know what I'm
sir.
doing.
I texted you.
You don't know what I'm doing. There might be a reason why I texted you. I'm playing video games, but you don't know that. I could be pooping.
Okay. He probably knows
He
that.
does know that. and
If you're
that's
my old boss, he would have answered
Yeah.
while you were pooping.
Great.
cool.
I'm going to sidestep you again, Phil.
That's fair.
I'm
a
going to
mess
go
this
into.
episode.
I know it's all right. I'm here for you. So a little bit into. It's not the production because I didn't look into that. It's more of the aftermath of this movie. So Cameron Crowe's earlier hit was Jerry Maguire, which was a massive hit,
Right.
and so
You had me at Jerry.
yeah. DreamWorks is like, okay, great. We're going to give this guy this money for this passion project. And he went over budget by a lot. He shot a couple months over because his main star was 16 years old and could only work X amount of hours per day. And this is reading from Variety in the year 2000 said there are no actual stars in this movie, And if you look at that now, you're like, what are you talking about?
Every single actor in this movie is a star.
There is huge stars in this. But at the time, I mean, Billy Crudup in this movie is so funny because every character he plays now is so straight-laced. Seeing him as like a 70s rocker was very funny to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it did. Besides all that, and so DreamWorks, I should say, got a little panicky. Also, it's a rated R film, and who do you market this to? And they started to sour on Cameron Crowe near the end there because he had sold Vanilla Sky to another, I think it was 20th Century Fox, and they thought that was going to be a bigger hit, and so they're like, why are we stuck with this passion project that's gone way over budget? And it was like $3.5 million on music, and usually you only get like $1.5 million at the most. And I mean, you can see where the money went for the music.
I'll tell you why, because they had 3 Led Zeppelin songs that they had to get rights to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And also, when they tested it and it was actually being shown, the only people who went to see it were people who grew up in the 70s. Specifically grew up in that small section. So people under 30 and people over 50 did not go and see this movie. It was a very small demographic, and so this bombed so hard. But as you said, DVD, more people discovered it. They're like, oh, I can actually like this movie, even if I didn't live in that time.
Well, yeah, and that was right at the time when like School of Rock came out a couple years after this, and like
it's like 2005, 2004.
Yeah, and then so we, young millennials were all like, what's really cool? Classic rock, yeah. And
I was gonna say, where were you when this movie came out? Probably around that time when you're really hitting the stride of the rock and roll sauce.
Because like at the time, like popular music was a lot of like gangster rap and like emo sort of music and like
boy bands
and boy bandy kind of stuff. Everything on the radio, I just thought sucked so hard. And you know
what's really funny is like now I really dig all of that music, like across the board, 2000s, you name it.
I mean, if the whole nostalgia train, like at that time we had that 70s show, was late 90s, early 2000s. So now we're really hitting the 80s pretty hard going into the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, the nostalgia train started with the Boomers and Happy Days, and it has just been like I remember realizing that Happy Days wasn't actually filmed in the 50s, and neither was like Grease. I was like, it wasn't? It's like, no, it was made in the 70s. Because I think I saw like, oh my God, who's the main Ron Howard, and I was like, Ron Howard's still alive? He'd be like 90. And then I was like, oh, I see. I got it all wrong. Anyways.
They did a pretty good job.
Phil, did you have something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I just wanted to do a little quiz real quick. Do you guys know what the most expensive song to license is? Not for this movie, of all time.
Gosh.
Happy
is
birthday.
It like a...
Oh,
is
no,
it
it's free
I
now.
Get Knocked Down and I Get Up Again?
It should.
Chumbawamba.
Tub Thumpin' by Chumbawamba had that
Tub
album.
Thumpin'.
And I could sing along to almost every song because I loved it.
It's a classic.
Is it a Beatles song?
I'm feeling
No.
Beatles or Michael Jackson.
It's neither.
Oh, okay.
Wow, okay.
Do you guys want to know it?
Sure.
It's AC/DC Thunderstruck.
Oh.
The most expensive. I feel like I've seen that in so
it's
many.
either the most... this had said it was the most expensive in 1999. It was $500,000.
Wow.
That somebody paid to have that in a movie. And now it's in like... It was in
all
like...
the Iron Man movies.
Yeah.
I literally just saw it in the new Mario movie.
Yeah.
It was in for a split second.
I don't think it's that expensive anymore. I think that's like the record for the most amount paid.
Yeah.
For,
well,
but I said that was kind of funny.
A lot of those, 70s.
I would have thought Beatles.
Yeah.
But.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those 70s, 60s guys were all totally anti-commercialism of using their stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then Paul McCartney gave the rights to of the Beatles to Michael Jackson because they became friends, and then Michael Jackson sold them for them to make car commercials, and they weren't friends anymore after that. Which good move on Paul McCartney.
Boy.
Yeah, that's fair.
Man.
Anyways,
Right.
is
Is that when? Yeah, never mind. I was gonna say, I was gonna make an Almost Famous segue reference back into Almost Famous. But anyway, of the songs, there were so the songs that were in this movie, including 3 Led Zeppelin songs and two Elton John songs. The 3 Led Zeppelin songs, there are first of all, you don't really see Led Zeppelin songs too many in movies. Maybe you see the Immigrant Song, right? That's one that comes up pretty frequently. These ones, you got Tangerine, you got Misty Mountain Hop, right? Is that one of them? And then what's the other one?
That's the Way.
That's the Way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like kind of Tangerine.
You gotta
is
be a fan.
Such a great song.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
so I mean, I love this movie. I just love listening to the music in this movie from start to finish.
It's a good soundtrack.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Dan,
Craig,
if you were to give this movie a rating out of something funny, what would you give it?
yeah, we usually do 1 out of 5 score is our system.
1 through 5. It's not a 1 out of 5 every time.
Right, 1 through 5. What? Yeah, I guess that is the way to say that.
Oh man, I think I might give it 5 out of 5 Golden Gods.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, just I mean, like I said, I was roped in the era of super impressionable Dans. The music is what carries me through this movie, something I fell in love with, and I continue to enjoy it to this day, in spite of the cringiness that is there. So I will still give it 5 out of 5 Golden Gods.
Fair.
Nice.
All right, Phil, what you got?
Oh man. Okay. I'm gonna go straight down the middle. I'm gonna give it a 2.5. Want to see me feed a mouse to my snake? Out of 5.
When was that line?
That was when he was in the party.
House on acid.
Oh.
Yeah, at the house party on acid, and he was looking for something real. And he's like, "Do you want to see me feed a mouse to my snake?" He's like, "Yeah, man, that's real." I laughed pretty good at that part.
When he goes into the house, he says, "I grew up with this lampshade."
This lampshade.
I love this kitchen.
Yeah.
All right, Will.
So I'm going to give this movie 5. Your aura is purple. Out of 5.
It's purple.
I loved that scene, just like her screaming. Anyways, yeah, I think for a lot of reasons Dan loved it. I mean, this wasn't one of my watch until I've I was watching Wes Anderson movies and Star Wars and those movies over and over and over again. But I feel like to me it's just a really good, well-made movie. It's funny when it needs to be funny. It's trying to say something without saying too much. Obviously, it's not great that it's sort of romanticizing an era of time when there was a lot of really awful sort of culture, because I mean, you listen back to any song from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and there's a lot of little girl this and you're too young for me, but I can't stop thinking about you kind of stuff. And
the bones are their money.
Yeah, right.
You pull your hair up, not out.
What?
He's doing I think you should leave again.
Oh, okay. Okay, missed that. Anyways, yeah. So yeah, I know that that's not cool, but I'm a smart person. I can watch this movie and know that that's not cool, and I can walk and chew gum at the same time. And obviously, if a movie like this came out now, I'd probably feel differently about it. But it's an era that it's a movie about being young during an era that I secretly wanted to be young during. Like I wanted to be in the 70s when I was a kid. Because I loved the fashion of the 70s and the music of the 70s. Obviously, my version of the 70s is fictional because I never lived through it, you know? And I know that there was a lot of like bad in the 70s and all that. But I still think as a movie it works really well. Anyways, that's my 10 cents on that. Craigerton, what do you got?
Yes. Oh gosh, you took mine, so I'm gonna have to come up with another one here. All right.
No.
5 out of 5. Did she say feck? Did she mean fuck? What's the difference? The letter U?
Yeah, that was fun.
Also,
Classic.
the other one I liked was your looks are becoming a problem.
Yeah.
Mm.
Jason Lee, every time Jason Lee is in a movie, I'm always like, this must be how other people see me, how he's acting right now. You know, he's just like a nonstop asshole all the time.
Yeah.
And I just love his characters. But
I love Jason Lee.
yeah, it is too bad that he is a Scientology monster.
Yep.
Yeah,
You
but
don't
he
want to
was
know
also
him in real life.
But he was also in My Name is Earl,
Which is a great
that's a
show.
great
I know.
show. So
Yeah. You know what show I always forget about?
My Name is
My
Earl.
Name is Earl.
Yeah.
I'm a real Earl head, you'll find. So
Yeah.
that's me.
Yep. All right. So that's this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, what do we do now?
I'm up next.
Oh, yeah. So, Craig, you are picking our next movie. What are we going to watch next week?
All right. Now that I am free from obligation, no offense, Lucy, we are going to watch
Burned.
I thought you...
RRR.
Oh, all right.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Dan, just so you know, RRR is a Bollywood movie that
Ooh.
won Best Original Song at the Oscars.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's
Wow.
it's on Netflix. And Bollywood movies are notorious for being the most over-the-top thing you've ever seen. So I'm excited
Yeah.
about that.
And I'm still the only one who's seen this, correct?
Yeah. I saw it with no sound. I saw parts of it with no sound on at a tiki bar in San Francisco.
That's right.
And I could not
That's
stop.
premium viewing.
I couldn't.
Excellent. Yeah.
I couldn't take my eyes off it for 1 second. So
Yep.
we had to leave the bar after one drink because we just weren't talking.
Is this gonna be a terrible introduction for me to Bollywood movies?
It'll probably ruin them all because you'll want them all to be like this.
Okay,
Mm.
perfect.
Sort of like
The
Princess
bar.
Mononoke and Miyazaki films for you.
Oh yeah, no, I mean,
Was that your first Miyazaki film?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Wow.
My Neighbor Totoro was technically my first, but I saw it as a kid. My first, like, as an adult, was Princess Mononoke, and now it's like
Mhm.
none of them match up to that. But
Yeah, so it was
the-
kind of a weird thing because like we watched this first one and feels like I love these, and then everyone was just slightly worse for him, so it was sort of a disappointing experience.
it's Nausicaa I've rewatched and is really really good, and The Wind Rises is like a very close second to Princess Mononoke.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you guys for having me on. This has been awesome. This has been. I've been secretly really wanting to get on this this podcast and join you guys for some banter and some good old movie hash back and forth.
We were
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
yeah. We were
Thanks
thrilled
for-
to have you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It's always nice to have have other. I'm so tired of talking to these shits, you know.
I know.
So
we
it's
need
always
a fourth
really
golden
nice.
god every
Yeah.
once in a while. You know, it's like a new golden god to mix it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have you on
Thank
another
you.
time soon. We'll
Yeah.
we'll keep doing the guest thing. I think is working out pretty well, and it's fun to do. So
For sure.
Hey, I'd love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
all right. So who
I'll
starts
do
it
my
off?
thing.
Oh yeah, Craig's got to do his thing.
Thank you for liking and subscribing to the podcast. We're on Instagram and Facebook. If you want to tell Phil why he's wrong.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's exactly
that's
why Instagram exists.
At me.
All right, so this episode is brought to you by Whoa, this is so weird. Dan Bator. Wow.
Whoa.
Oh, thanks, man. If you're interested in helping support us and want to hear your name shouted on the podcast, and who knows, maybe become a guest one day, because I know personally every single person who's on our Patreon list. So, let me know. Consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/mumbleandtrug.
If you like what you heard, consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or, hear me out, write an article in a magazine, wait 20 to 25 years, then make a movie about the time when you were writing an article for a magazine, and that magazine happened to be a magazine about podcasting, and you were writing about us. That's all for this episode. I'm Phil Kessel.
I'm Will Chodas.
And I'm Craig Norland.
And I'm Dan Bator.
Go watch this podcast.
Lock the gates.
Go watch the movie. I don't know.
Lock the gates.
Lock the gates. Lock the gates on Phil.
We just bought a gate.
Okay. Weird brag.
Movies with My Best Friend Phil is brought to you by Mumble and Shrug Productions, the creators of very serious video production for very serious clients. This episode was recorded and edited by Will Chodas. Research provided by Phil Kessel and Craig Norland. Cover art was designed by Will Chodas, and Phil Kessel provided likeness. For more content like this, visit mumbleandtrug.com.
స్కాట్ ద్వారా వారు మా ఆదిలాబాద్ వచ్చినప్పుడు ఓ చిన్నపిల్లని తీసుకొచ్చారు. మీరు తీసుకొచ్చింది గోండ్ల పిల్లనండి.
అయితే వాళ్ళకి ఏమైనా 2 కొమ్ములు ఉంటాయా?
ఒక కాపరుంటాడు.
పులిని పట్టుకోవాలంటే వేటగాడు కావాలి. ఆ పని చేయగలిగేది ఒక్కడే సార్.
ప్రాణం కన్నా విలువైన నీ సోపతి నా సొంతం అన్నా. గర్వంతో ఈ మన్నలో కలిసిపోతానే.
నన్నీడ ఇడిసిపోకన్నా అమ్మాయి ఆదికొస్తుందన్నా.
బ్రిటిష్ ప్రభుత్వానికి ఎదురు తిరిగిన నేరానికి నేను అరెస్ట్ చేస్తున్నాను.
తొంగి తొంగి నక్కి నక్కి కాదే, తొక్కుకుంటూ పోవాలి. ఎదురొచ్చినోడిని ఏసుకుంటూ పోవాలి.
చాలా ప్రమాదం, ప్రాణాలు పోతాయిరా. ఆనందంగా ఇచ్చేస్తాను బాబాయ్. యుద్ధాన్ని వెతుక్కుంటూ ఆయుధాలు వాటంతటవే వస్తాయి. Brace yourself for round. Brace yourself for ఈ నక్కల వేట ఎంతసేపు? కుంభస్థలాన్ని బద్దల కొడతాం పదా. Brace yourself.
Brought to you by Mumble and Shrug Productions.